Hello, and welcome back to the Web Dev Coach, where my goal is to teach you web development. In the last video, we added styles to the random quote machine, so if you haven't checked out those videos, please do so. In this video, we're going to be adding a tweet link to twitter.com to tweet the quote that we have rendered on the screen, and we'll pass the FreeCodeCamp tests that FreeCodeCamp has provided us with their test utility. So let's get to some code. Alright, so here we are back at our code, and the first thing that I'm going to do is actually install a trio of FontAwesome packages. That way we can have SVGs, specifically the Twitter SVG, so the user can click, knowing that it's Twitter, knowing that it'll tweet out the quote that is displayed on the screen. So the three packages that I'll be installing is FortAwesome / FontAwesome SVG core, FortAwesome / free brands SVG icons, and this is where the Twitter icon lives, as well as GitHub, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. And lastly, the FortAwesome / React FontAwesome package. So I'm going to start installing those packages, and I'll see you back here after they're all installed. Alright, so as you see, all the packages installed correctly, all the FontAwesome packages, we'll go into our quote machine component and start off by importing some packages that we need. This includes the the icon button component from Material Core, and we'll import that like this. And you may be asking why I'm importing it in a different way. It's because the Material UI documentation asks that we import it this way for a better build. Here we'll import the FontAwesome icon component from the FortAwesome React FontAwesome package. And as you see, I'm kind of using semicolons. I'm just going to put semicolons everywhere. I'm a big fan of semicolons. I'm not sure why those don't have semicolons. And I'm also here going to import FA Twitter from the FortAwesome free brands SVG icons package. And this FA Twitter is the actual Twitter SVG. Now, I want to render out that Twitter icon. We'll surround it with a icon button container, again imported from the Material Core, and we'll be using the FontAwesome icon React component that we imported from FortAwesome React FontAwesome, and that'll take in a property of icon. And to that we pass in the FA Twitter SVG and a size property, and you can see in the FontAwesome documentation how we can size our icon accordingly. And that's it. Let's save it and let's look at our application. Let's let it reload, and you'll see here that we have a Twitter icon that acts like a Material UI button. So there we go. Right now, the Twitter icon is not launching any links. I'll do that next. To get our Twitter button working, we actually want to treat the icon button just like we would treat a anchor tag to link to a web page. What the web page we want to link to is actually a Twitter web page that looks something like this: twitter.com /intents /tweet. And we'll pass in query parameters. That's what everything after a question mark is called in a URL. Those are query parameters. We'll pass in a text query parameter, which is actually the quote that we want to tweet. So we'll pass in props.selectedQuote .quote here. And here I'm actually typing in props a lot in my quote machine. So I'm going to use object destructuring to actually destructure out selected quote so I don't have to type it in over and over again. We also want to destructure out assign new quote index so we can stop using the props variable altogether, And just like that, we no longer have to use props. Again, just like an anchor tag, we can treat the icon button like an anchor tag. We can pass in target equals underscore blank, and that way a new tab is opened up when we click our Twitter icon. Let's go back to our React app and see what it looks like. You'll see here that there's actually an error that reads cannot read property quote of undefined. This tells me that selected quote is undefined at one point or another. And if you remember in app.js, we actually get this quote from the internet. So there's a point in time when there's nothing, there's no quote array to read from, and therefore our quote is actually undefined. To solve this, I actually only want to render out a quote machine when I actually get a quote from the internet. So here I'm going to use a ternary operator. So if this dot selected quote exists, then we render out a quote machine, just like this. And if it doesn't exist, here at the end, we'll render out null. This line is a little too long for me. I don't love it. So I'm going to break it up. Maybe something like this looks a little bit better. And let's save that. Let's go to our quote machine because now we know that we're guaranteed to actually have a selected quote passed into it. So we no longer have to do this check up here. So let's delete this check just like that. Again, I'm doing this because we are guaranteed to have a selected quote passed into the quote machine. Let's save that. Let's go back to our application and see if it actually renders. You'll see here that it actually does render. Let's click our Twitter icon and see if we're actually taken to a page. We're taken to twitter.com where our quote is actually right here in the middle, so we can tweet it. We can click tweet and tweet that out there. Nicely done. Our Twitter link is now working. Next up, we still have those FreeCodeCamp tests to pass. Let's get started. To get started passing the test, we'll actually need to know what the tests are. So here, let's open our test suite and let's run the random quote machine test suite. And you'll see here that I only passed 3 out of 12 tests. If we scroll down, you'll see that we can actually pass these tests just by adding IDs to components that we already have. So let's see, within quote box, I can see an element with corresponding ID of text. So let's find our quote box ID. Here that is. And in our, let's see, in our quote machine, we'll probably want to put the ID of text. So let's go into our quote machine and let's put the ID of text right in there, just like that. And let's reload our application. We go back here, we run the tests again, and you'll see now I'm passing 5 out of 12 tests. We're well on our way to passing all the tests. So we want to, let's see, use author for the author component. We want a clickable element with new quote and a anchor element with tweet quote. So author, new quote, tweet quote. So here, let's have a span. That way, let's see, just like that. And this will have an ID of author. Let's see, our button here will have an ID, I believe, of new quote. And this icon button here will have an ID of tweet quote. Let's go back to our tests, reload it, and let's run the tests again. This time I'm passing 12 out of 12 tests. So as you can see, we were passing all the tests all along in a way, but we just needed to add the appropriate IDs. Nicely done. We're basically done with the random quote machine for FreeCodeCamp. You can now actually submit your code to FreeCodeCamp and get the credit needed. However, I'm actually going to post another video later this week where I deploy our random quote machine onto the World Wide Web for everybody to see. So please do not miss out on that one. Click subscribe, click like, leave me some comments. I'd love to hear from my viewers. And that's it. Until next time, this is the Web Dev Coach. Peace.